in his first game. Let's take a look and see if...
Just blasting through Landon Dickerson right there.
Shane. Allen.
Man, NFL Week 13 preview, the 38th parallel. Man, that Ben Johnson, my God, he's doing some good things over there in Chicago. Dang, I watched that and I was like, man, Kyle Shanahan would never. Kyle Shanahan, hey, good job over there, guys. Congratulations, you guys won. All right, let's get back to it. Yeah, really motivate your team.
The grass is always greener on the other side for you, I've noticed. I've picked that up. I swear. But you know what? You're right. The competition for Coach of the Year is looking pretty tight. We'll have to see how it goes. How was Thanksgiving, bud? Did you have a good Thanksgiving? Are you still stuffed?
I'm okay, actually. I'm good. I had my food on Thanksgiving, and then after that, I'm okay. But yeah, good Thanksgiving. How about you?
Yeah, it was a good Thanksgiving. Fridge is packed. Then I avoided going out on Black Friday, because if I went out on Black Friday, then I would have to
just blasting through
Yeah, and nobody wants to have to.
Well, let me go on.
Tom Brady, what are you doing?
Hello, Tom. Okay.
I tell you what we're doing, folks. We're going to do, this is the only time of the year where we can do our show Saturday night, but we've already had nearly like half a dozen games played before we even get a chance to talk. So we're gonna kick off this week with a little Thanksgiving rewind, starting off with our first game: Green Bay 31, Detroit 24. Green Bay improves to 8-3-1 and 3-0 in the NFC North. That's the important part. This is a sweep of the Lions. This Green Bay team, believe it or not, only won one game in their division last year. They're currently 3-0. What do you think about old Green Bay?
I mean, they're making a run for the best team in the NFC. We'll get into that a little later on about that. But yeah, I think Green Bay is legit. I mean, every once in a while, Jordan Love will kind of do things you're like, what are you doing? So Jordan Love's still a little inconsistent, but overall, I like what Green Bay is doing.
You know, the interesting thing is Jordan Love was kind of in a little bit of a dip there. I don't want to go so far as to say that he regressed, but it was definitely not pretty over the middle part of the season. Here was the thing. He only threw 2 touchdown passes in their previous 4 games combined.
That's crazy.
That's pretty rough. Pretty rough. And then he turns around and throws 4 against the Detroit Lions, which kind of leads us to the other side of that coin is, okay, good for Green Bay, but what the hell is going on with the Detroit Lions? Me personally, I was one of the people that was really high on the Lions last year. Sucked to see all those injuries, particularly on defense. But that would lead us going into this year thinking, well, if this team is healthy, they're the favorites. Like this, they looked so good last year, even with all those injuries. If they're healthy this year, they're going all the way. And yet we're not talking about the Lions running away with the NFC North. At this point, we're talking about the Lions have to make sure to salvage a playoff spot. What is wrong with the Lions?
I don't know. I think it's probably just their competition this year. I mean, their division is really good. I mean, we got Chicago Bears are just what happened there. That's a big surprise. I think Green Bay is really good. So their whole division is good. Notice I didn't mention the Minnesota Vikings because they suck. So they have to worry about them. But those two for sure are legit. I don't think it comes down to the competition. You know, they did so well these past couple of seasons. You're going to get the better or I guess you're going to play the better teams that had better records
Mhm.
last season. So you're going to face those teams. And I just think they're just not up to the competition, in my opinion.
Here's the thing: is that because they didn't just become less good in the last week. They've kind of been iffy for a big chunk of the season. I think for a big part of the season, it's kind of underestimated how big of an issue it is that both of their coordinators, offense and defense, are coaching for other teams. There's going to be turnover when
Right.
you're a good team. And when both of your coordinators leave, that puts a lot of pressure on head coach Dan Campbell, who took over the play calling duties. And that's kind of been up and down, to say the least.
Yeah.
And now, to add insult to injury, this team that was decimated by injuries last year, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, Brock Wright, Khalif Raymond, Graham Glasgow, all out. They had to sign a longtime veteran practice squad player to the squad, Tom Kennedy, just so that they had someone else to throw to over the middle. He did end up with 4 catches and a few good blocks. That's not bad, but that's not exactly like having Amon-Ra St. Brown on the field, who did play until he got his ankle rolled, like on the first drive of the game on Thursday. So
Not good.
I'm suddenly very down on Detroit. And Jesus, I hate to even bring this one up because I just want to hear it from you. I don't want to hear it from you. Dallas Cowboys 31, Kansas City Chiefs 28. Now, you'll remember I said all the way back in September that the Cowboys would have to stack a whole bunch of wins early to avoid a big letdown late in the season, because they were going to have a gauntlet that was going to include the Eagles, Chiefs, and Lions, amongst others. Well, they failed to do that, by the way. They didn't stack a lot of wins in the early part of the season.
No,
and so that means the season's over, right? Well, okay. Why are the Cowboys suddenly good?
It beats me. I don't know. I mean, it's probably because of Dak Prescott, right? He's getting paid all that money, and he's finally worth the money. Let's go. He's worth $500 billion, and he's finally playing like it. So I'm going to give all the credit to Dak Prescott, and I guess George Pickens, he's fine. CeeDee Lamb's okay, and hey, Kenny Clark, not too bad. Keenan Williams, pretty good. Hey, I think Jerry Jones did a pretty good job trading away whoever that guy. What was his name? I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is that after the early season injuries plus negative trades, it looked like Dallas was not going to compete this year.
Yeah, there was.
Now, I'll give credit where credit is due. Dak has had a pretty good season. He's currently possibly leading the NFL in passing, just for the moment. So yeah, I get it. Dak has had a good year, but it has to be more than that, right? And you already mentioned George Pickens. The fact that they signed this guy, they brought this guy in from Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh was happy to get rid of him. They felt he was a diva that wasn't performing. And now this guy is absolutely crushing it. He's technically the number 2 receiver behind CeeDee Lamb. And I think he's moved up to the top 10 in receivers in the NFL. He's currently second. He's number 2 in receiving this year, behind only Jackson Smith-Njigba of Seattle, and that's the Cowboys' number 2 wide receiver. So yeah, that is pretty amazing. But I think even more than that is the fact that they bring in Quinnen Williams, right? They get back injured players. They get back Brand in the secondary. They get back Marshawn at linebacker, and suddenly they're not a good defense, but they're at least a defense, right? And that's enough. When you have an offense that plays as well as the Cowboys do, if you could just get a handful of stops in a game, you can usually outrun the other team. Which brings us, of course, to the under end of that spectrum. I'm not going to say the F word on our lovely podcast, but screw the Chiefs. Everyone with me. Screw the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Shane, the Kansas City Chiefs, my goodness, man. We're not talking about can the Chiefs retake the lead and win the AFC West for a record billionth year in a row. That's not even on the table. We're talking about whether or not the Chiefs can get back into the wild card consideration. They're currently down in the 10th spot.
Wow.
What in the world is going on with the Kansas City Chiefs?
Man, it could just be that they're just down on their luck. You know, everyone's pretty much probably figured them out. They know how to beat the Chiefs and make it competitive against them. And you know, they're not winning the close games. You know, they lost against the Cowboys by 3. They beat the Colts by 3, so they won that one. But they lost to the Broncos by 3, lost to the Bills by a touchdown. So they're not winning the close games. Where before it just seemed like every single time they were in close games, they always were able to get over the hump. And I think that's part of it. And Andy Reid, he's a Hall of Fame coach, but I think we're seeing the tail end of what's going on with the Chiefs dynasty right now.
Yes. So here's the thing about the Chiefs going forward. They said it themselves in the locker room after the game. They've got 5 games left. They probably got to win all 5.
Yeah.
If they want to feel confident going into the end of the last week of the season, they pretty much have to win every game. Anything other than that means not only is their AFC West title reign over, they're probably just not going to the playoffs, which is hard to believe considering Mahomes has been healthy. But I'll tell you who hasn't been healthy. He just finished this last game against the Cowboys without right guard Trey Smith, right tackle Jawan Taylor, and rookie left tackle Josh Simmons. I have a hunch that if the Chiefs cannot afford to lose another game, but they're out without 3 of their 5 starting offensive linemen for any amount of time in those 5 weeks, it's probably over for KC. And boy, don't you know, that just breaks my heart. Moving on to the next game. How about this? Joe Burrow is back, baby. Joe Burrow retakes the field, and the Cincinnati Bengals beat the Baltimore Ravens 32-14. So, of course, we'll start with the winners like we've done the other ones. Cincinnati, it's great to see Joe Burrow back out on the field, but this win wasn't really because of Joe Burrow. Certainly not in my opinion. So Joe Burrow in this game, I want to pull this up. They obviously wanted to test him to see if he had the stamina, if he had the strength, if he was able to move on his feet, coming back from the turf toe. They were showing it on the broadcast that he had like some kind of composite sole put into his foot that was supposed to help the structural integrity of the situation. Joe Burrow threw the ball 46 times in that game. He was only 24-46, which is kind of mediocre. 261 yards is decent, but by his standards, those are kind of mediocre numbers. I think the bigger surprise for me is that while the Bengals won and Joe Burrow was physically on the field, it was the fact that the defense, which has been so bad so many weeks, remember we talked about on the show, they lost something like back-to-back games where they scored high 30s, low 40s points, but lost the game.
Yeah.
This week, they score 32, but they hold Baltimore to 14. Well, Joe Burrow doesn't play defense, so what happened there?
Well, I mean, you're facing a Baltimore team that, we've talked about before, where it's just not clicking this season for the Ravens. So they're just going against a team that is just, they're not in it right now. And, having Joe Burrow back, I think that probably rejuvenated a lot of the players because that's the guy over there in Cincinnati. Even with all the injuries, he's still the guy right now. So, I mean, they scored 32 points, which that's a lot on Joe Burrow and the play calling. And, when you got to make the plays, you make them. So congratulations to the Bengals. Let's go. Playoffs.
Well, I don't know about that. You want to talk about teams that started too late. I think the Bengals are firmly out of it at this point. But I'll tell you another team that is looking cooked, as the kids say. The Baltimore Ravens had a chance. Look, after the start of the season that they endured, they had a chance to come back on the Steelers because the Steelers have also played so poorly. And we'll get to them later in the show. Yeah. But they needed this win. Beating a lower level team in their own division, especially this week with the Steelers going up against the Bills, that would have given the Ravens a chance to take control of the division and be back in the playoffs despite all their troubles. But we talked about, and this is another thing we talked about on the show, Lamar Jackson's injuries. He had a knee, he had an ankle, he had a toe, he missed a few weeks. was on the injury report back to back weeks for different injuries. He says he's fine, but he doesn't look fine. The turnovers, right? This is the worst slump of his career, by the way. He turned the ball over 3 times for the first time in 4 years. This is only the 5th time he's turned the ball over 3 or more times in his 8-year career. Fumbled twice, batted balls at the line that were intercepted. The fumbles, by the way, gave the Bengals the ball inside the Baltimore 20-yard line 2 times. So that contributed to the score. He really hasn't looked like himself at all. Also, this is the one that's killer for me. Lamar Jackson has not thrown a touchdown pass in 3 straight games. That's a career worst for him. Damn. And that's including not throwing one against a Bengals defense that allowed 32.7 points per game. Now, I get if maybe they came out on the wrong end of a shootout. The problem is they didn't do their part of the shootout. That is genuinely surprising for me. I think that both of these teams are probably done on the year. Even though the Ravens still technically have the better record, they look worse, and the Bengals are playing from too far behind.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you who's not playing from very far behind. How about the Chicago Bears? The Chicago Bears go into Philadelphia on Black Friday. They win the game 24-15. Another week of us waiting on the Bears to come crashing back down to earth. And it's another W for that shirtless man right there on the screen, rookie head coach Ben Johnson and company.
Oh.
So this is the question that everyone has. Even ourselves have complained all year that, well, I'm not paying very much attention to the Bears because who have they even played? With this week's win and going on the heels of having beaten the Steelers as well, are you officially sold that the Bears are a legit team?
Well, look, yeah, you were saying it where we were kind of just, we'll see, we'll see what's going on with the Bears. But yeah, after seeing that guy take his shirt off and just amp up his team, and they so believe in what Ben Johnson is doing over there in Chicago. I am sold on Chicago. So look, I still don't 100% believe in Caleb Williams. But what he's doing over there, hey, he's completely destroying what I was thinking he was going to do. So kudos to him. But before, when early on in the season, Ben Johnson was kind of having these weird interviews during the game, just kind of having a straight stone face, no emotion whatsoever. And then it's like all that emotion just came out after they won this past recent game here. And then, yeah, he just completely just goes all Hulk on everyone. So you know what? I am in on the Chicago Bears. The Bears.
Here's the thing that kills me. So look, Caleb Williams has been improved this year.
Yeah.
First year under Ben Johnson. But still not good. I think he's serviceable at this point, but not good. He finished that game with a 47% pass completion rate. That's not good. He was 17 of 36 for 154 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. That is thoroughly mediocre on a good day. However, Chicago ran for 282 yards against the Eagles, against the defending Super Bowl champions on the road. You know what they always say? If you want to win in the playoffs, you got to run the ball and stop the run. Well, that right there is pretty darn good. Speaking of playoffs, talking about playoffs, the defending Super Bowl champion Eagles, there's been a few weeks now where we've said, I don't know, are the Eagles in trouble? Lots of drama in and out of the locker room. The offense is sputtering. Jalen Hurts is under a lot of criticism. What's it going to take for them to kind of overcome this kind of funk that they're in? And then they have the Cowboys game. They go up 21-0, and then they lose 24-21. And then that funk continued into this game where they end up putting a couple of scores on the board, but they lose the game 24-15. And it wasn't really even that close because they started so slow. So I think at this point, even though the Eagles are still completely in control of their fate for the postseason, for the division, I think it's pretty fair to say at this point that the Eagles are officially in trouble. Would you agree?
Well, I mean, they face the Chargers. That can be whatever type of game because the Chargers have been up and down. So who knows with that? But then they face the Raiders, so you would think that should be a free win, right? That shouldn't be a trap game. And then they face the Redskins twice at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So there you go. That could be 1, 2, 3 wins right there, hopefully, if you're thinking. But if they're completely falling off a cliff here, they could lose to the Chargers. They lose to the Raiders somehow, some way. Pete Carroll and Geno Smith get it done against Philadelphia. So I don't know if that's going to happen, but
well, let's see where the Philadelphia Eagles fall on our Week 13 power rankings. That's right, we're doing the power rankings again this week to get ready for the final stretch of the season. A quick reminder for everyone at home: I make these rankings based where the teams are right now, not where we think that they should be or could be by the end of the season. Therefore, a few rules. Teams with better records go before teams with worse records. Ties count as losses for the sake of putting them in brackets, as they should. Also, within the same bracket, head-to-head always wins, unless there's some kind of win-loss triangle, quadrangle situation where you're just going to have to make a judgment call.
Yeah.
And so for the purposes of this week, because I know we're getting to the final stretch of the season, only the top 16 teams will be ranked. If you are not in the top 16, congratulations. The 38P Sports Podcast has decided your season has concluded. Yeah, better luck next year. We'll see you in April for the draft. We're going to kick it off with the top tier 2-loss teams, going with number 1, the Los Angeles Rams, number 2, the New England Patriots, and number 3, the Denver Broncos. Starting off with the LA Rams, they are currently my pick for best team in the NFL. The Rams lead the league in point differential with plus 127. Ooh. Jesus. Ooh. They lead their division with one more game at Seattle left. And they still have both games against the Arizona Cardinals. So that's probably a couple of wins.
Jeez. The
Rams now have the number 1 scoring defense in the NFL. And my current clubhouse leader for MVP, quarterback Matthew Stafford. Now, people sort of glossed over the fact that the Rams were actually the team that was closest to derailing last year's Eagles Super Bowl run. They came much closer than the Chiefs did in the Super Bowl, I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
And if the Eagles can't right the ship, the Rams might now be the clear favorite in the NFC. That number 2 team, the New England Patriots, they have a league-leading 9-game win streak. That's a commanding lead now in the AFC East with the staggering of the Bills. And they're doing it all in head coach Mike Vrabel's first year in town. And that's also with second-year quarterback Drake May and a rookie running back, Travion Henderson. I'd say the future's looking pretty darn bright in Foxborough, as much as I hate to say that. But one small point, their wins only include 3 teams with winning records. And of those 2 of them only barely have a winning record. 7 of their wins and 4 of their final 5 games are all against losing teams. So just keep that in mind when you see that gaudy record for New England. Okay. Finally, third place team, the Denver Broncos. They haven't been as impressive on the offensive side of the ball under QB Bo Nix as the 2 teams ranked above them. But they do consistently run the ball better. And they're number 3 in scoring defense. And as we all know, to win in January, got to be able to run the ball and stop the run, which the Broncos can do. The trendy preseason pick to end the Chiefs dynasty and win the AFC West currently enjoys a 2-game lead, and that's over the Chargers, by the way. The Chiefs are way out of it. And that's with 6 games to play. Their next 2 games are at Redskins and at Raiders. So not exactly a gauntlet.
Yeah.
However, their final 4 games are Packers, Jaguars, at Chiefs, Chargers. All 4 of those games are likely to have a playoff atmosphere, as each of those teams is going to be jockeying for position in the playoff race. What do you think about my top 3 teams? Agree, disagree?
It sounds good to me. You know, I obviously as a Niners fan, you see the Rams, you go, but you gotta look at reality here. And the Los Angeles Rams are a juggernaut. Matthew Stafford, I don't know how he does it. He's a robot, basically. He just continues to play like an MVP player. Seemingly, it seems like every single year he's been with the Rams, he just continues to play great. And it would not surprise me if he stays there. Even if they get the Super Bowl and they win, he could be like, you know what, I got another year in me. So let's go. So yeah, I completely in agreement with you there with the first three teams here.
Well, we're going to move on to our second tier, the next three teams. I called it the 3-loss threesome, but in hindsight, maybe that wasn't the best for branding. We're going to go with this. This might surprise some people. My number 4 team is the Chicago Bears.
Oh, yeah.
Followed by number 5, the Seattle Seahawks, and number 6, the Indianapolis Colts. Now, a lot of people, myself included, have avoided the Bears like the plague because, similarly to the Steelers, their season up to a point kind of seemed like fool's gold.
Right.
They started 0-2, and then a month later, they lost a really ugly game to a really bad Ravens team. But after that, their wins were exclusively against even worse teams. And so at this point, I'm thinking, maybe the Bears aren't that good. But over the last 3 weeks, they get one back against the Vikings. Okay, not too much to brag about. And then they come out on top against the Steelers by a field goal, which is solid, but the Steelers are trending down. But then on Black Friday, they absolutely run all over the yard against the Eagles in Philadelphia. Easily their best win of the season. Speaking of pounding the rock, they're number 1 in rushing, thanks to ex-Eagle running back DeAndre Swift. And their 7th-round pick, Kyle Monangai. Don't you wish that your 7th-round pick was that? Oh, you're a San Francisco fan.
Yeah.
Also, quarterback Caleb Williams. We talked about him a little bit. Let's bring him up again.
Yeah.
Still rough around the edges, but he has shown improvement under first-year head coach Ben Johnson. Importantly, their offensive line, which gave up 68 sacks last year on Caleb Williams, right now, that number is 19. So not perfect, but significantly improved over this time last year. Now, both of their games against the Green Bay Packers are in the next 3 weeks, sandwiched around a tilt with the Browns. And then after that, they've got at 49ers and Lions. So that's Packers, Browns, Packers, 49ers, Lions. Now, we're going to know a whole lot about the Bears after that last stretch of games. But at this point, we're not just talking about a potential surprising wild card. They could win the NFC North.
Yeah.
Next team, and this is the first team in my power rankings that's not currently a division leader, Seattle Seahawks. They're one game down on the number 1 ranked Rams in the NFC West, and that's after a 21-19 loss in LA. But they do have one more matchup with them in Seattle a few Thursdays from now. On paper, this is a really good team. They have wide receiver Jackson Smith-Njigba, who's number 1 in the league. He's on a record-setting pace. This dude's got 1,313 yards through 11 games. He's on pace to set the single-season record.
Wow.
They're 2nd in scoring offense and 7th in scoring defense. None of their losses are bad ones. The division is theirs for the taking if they win out. And at worst, they're looking at a wild card. Now, quarterback Sam Darnold is following up last year's kind of career resurgence in Minnesota with another pretty strong season this year in Seattle. Listen to this. He's top 10 in yards, completion percentage, touchdowns, QBR, and quarterback rating. He's also number 1 in average yards per attempt, and he's only been sacked 11 times. The only big area of concern for Darnold, which has reared its head in that loss to the Rams, and it also could be the reason why this team doesn't make it to late in January, is turnovers. Darnold does have 10 interceptions to go along with 4 lost fumbles, which is the most out of all of the other quarterbacks around him in the top 15. Now, after that Thursday night football game against the Rams, they finish at Panthers and at 49ers. Those games specifically could determine the seeding for basically the entire NFC.
Yeah.
Finally, the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts right now, and I have them at 6th, they're probably our highest ranked team and divisional leader that actually give us a little bit of pause. They started the season 7-1. They were leading the NFL at the time. They were running away with the AFC South. And then they've lost 2 of their last 3. An ugly loss in Pittsburgh, followed by a close win against the Falcons, and then another brutal overtime loss to the Chiefs. And suddenly, just like that, they're only 1 game up on the Jaguars and only 2 games up on the Texans. And that's with 2 games apiece left against them. They will play the Jaguars twice and the Texans twice, and then still have at Seattle and the 49ers in between. That is a brutal end schedule for the Colts. If they've been struggling recently and they don't fix those struggles, they could be struggling to stay in the playoff race entirely, much less win their division and host a playoff game. Now, the reason for the slide has been some regression to the mean by quarterback Daniel Jones and some questionable play calling and game management by head coach Shane Steichen. But they do still have the number 1 running back in the NFL. You might have heard of this guy named Jonathan Taylor, who they desperately need to lean on until or unless they can escape the funk that they're in. So what do you think? That's our top 2 tiers. What's your take on the Colts? Do you think we're going to be talking about the Colts in a month, or are we going to be talking about how the Colts flamed out?
Oh man, yeah. The fact that they still have the Texans and Jaguars twice. That's crazy. The fact that they haven't played them yet. That's insane. And the Seahawks and 49ers, those are going to be tough games. So, I mean, this is probably their gauntlet right here. The whole end of their season is the gauntlet. I mean, yeah, the Colts, they need to really tighten things up if they want to continue with the top of the AFC South, because the Texans and Jaguars are coming. They be coming. As Stephen A. Smith said, they come and they be coming. So
if they finish, we'll just forget those NFC out of conference games,
sure,
Seattle and San Francisco. If they go sub 500 in to finish in division, they may not make the playoffs at all. However, we'll come back to that in just a moment, because there's a kind of an interesting thing going on in the AFC South. That finally leads us to our next tier of teams. This is going to take us 7th through 12th. This is what I like to call the 4-loss cluster. You know what? We're going to start with 7th and 8th place are kind of interchangeable. I'll explain that in a moment. We got Green Bay Packers and then Philadelphia Eagles. Then you have Jacksonville Jaguars and then number 10, the San Francisco 49ers, rounding out the top 10.
Let's go.
And then you have 11 Los Angeles Chargers and 12 Buffalo Bills. Let me explain that Packers-Eagles thing for a moment. I have Green Bay at 7, Philadelphia at 8. Now, the Eagles do technically have a win over the Packers, but the Packers technically have a half-game lead due to the tie instead of a loss. So we're going to call this Packers 7th and Eagles 8th, because the Packers have won 3 straight since that loss, including the big 31-24 Thanksgiving game in Detroit, which swept them for the season, while the Eagles have lost 2 straight to the Cowboys and Bears to go from being a 1 seed and division lock to a 3 seed and needing to finish strong to avoid disaster. Moving on to number 9, the Jacksonville Jaguars. I know what you're thinking. Let me stop you right there. Before anyone questions the Jaguars at 9th, they have wins over the 49ers and Chargers. So if other teams in the rankings, and more importantly in the playoff standings, don't like it, then stop losing to the Jaguars. It's just that simple. The Jags do still have a game at Denver and 2 games against the Colts, along with the Jets, and 2 games against the Titans. So very up and down. If they are above 500 in those 6 games, so let's say that's beating the Titans twice, beating the Jets, and winning at least 1 game out of Denver, Indy, they're a playoff team. And if they're a playoff team, that means some other team's not going to be. Then you have number 10, the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers are at Browns coming up this weekend, and then they have the Titans, Browns and Titans, before finishing at Colts, Bears, and Seahawks. Now, Shane, you've heard this from me before. The last thing the 49ers want is that Seahawks game to be an all-or-nothing contest. Yeah. They don't want that. The Chargers have wins over the Broncos and Chiefs and are in the top wildcard position, but they have games left against the Eagles, at Chiefs, at Cowboys, Texans, at Broncos. So glass half full is you sweep those teams and you're at the top of the division. Glass half empty is you get skunked in 4 out of 5 of those games, and the Chargers are suddenly on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
And finally, the Bills. Well, here's the Bills. They have a very up and down. They have a very up and down schedule remaining. This weekend at Steelers, then the Bengals, then at the Patriots, then the Browns, then the Eagles, and then the Jets.
Oh,
If they go 500, it might be good enough to make the playoffs, but just barely making the playoffs isn't what this team wanted to do. And that's with them already having wins over the Ravens and Chiefs. If I had told you at the beginning of the year that the Bills would be cruising in the second half of the season, having already beaten Baltimore and Kansas City, you would think this was the Bills' year. But boy, those windows, they are a closing in Buffalo. Finally, we're going to wrap up really quick here. This is my bottom tier because, again, if you're not in the top 16, better luck next year. This is the 5-loss finale. Number 13, the Detroit Lions. Number 14, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Number 15, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And number 16, the Houston Texans. The Lions are still leading this bunch with a win over the Bucs, who have a win over the Texans, but it's not by much. Their next 3, Cowboys, at Rams, Steelers, before finishing at Vikings, at Bears. The Lions suddenly have very little margin of error here, especially considering that the Dallas game is coming up and the Cowboys are suddenly on their heels in the wild card. This is another team kind of similar to Buffalo that just didn't expect to be holding on for dear life by the time December got here. Then you have the Pittsburgh Steelers, who started strong, thanks in part to the entire rest of the AFC North being a dumpster fire, kind of like those jerseys. But now, thanks to losing 4 of their last 6, the 6-6 Ravens, who they still have to play twice, by the way, and even the 4-8 Bengals with Joe Burrow back are still competing for the division. Let me tell you something, folks. That Bills-Steelers game is going to be crucial for both of these teams. Ditto for the Bucs, who have lost 4 of their last 5. The Bucs went from flirting with a top seed to flirting with losing the division and missing the playoffs. Now, luckily for them, their remaining schedule includes the Cardinals, Saints, Falcons, and Dolphins.
dang it.
But it also ends with 2 games against the Panthers, who now are only a game back in the division. If they lose those games, the Panthers win the NFC South.
Wow.
The Bucs have an easier road than Carolina does, along with a current lead, but they certainly can't afford to get swept. And last but not least, somehow we have the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans started the season 0-3. Then they were 3-5. Totally out of it. And now they're 6-5. They had a field goal loss to the Broncos, and then they beat the 49ers and Jaguars and Bills and Titans too, but that's not as impressive.
Yeah, right.
All of those are some quality wins against playoff-bound teams, and that was largely with their backup quarterback, Davis Mills, in at the helm. Now, with C.J. Stroud returning this week to play at Indianapolis, it's yet to be seen if the Texans can sustain that momentum. But if they can go 4-2 or better over that remaining 6, that could give you a second or even a third AFC South team in the playoffs. I'm going to be honest with you, Shane. I'm part of the part of me that loves chaos is rooting for 3 AFC South teams to make the playoffs.
Oh man, could you imagine? Let's go.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Let's go. Yeah, I am so in on that.
It's a Christmas miracle.
Yeah. No
All right.
Chiefs, AFC South teams. Let's go.
All right, we're gonna move on really quick here to our Week 13 Q&A. The phrase that you heard probably at least a couple of dozen times over the Thanksgiving break, and it was attributed to Belichick. It was attributed to Parcells. I actually think Parcells is the one. The old phrase of the football season starts after Thanksgiving. All that other stuff, yeah, whatever. But the season starts after Thanksgiving. So we're going to talk about a few games after Thanksgiving. We're going to kick it off with the Texans, who are 6-5, are going on the road to play the Indianapolis Colts, who are 8-3. Now, we've talked about both of these teams a little bit. I'm going to kick it over to you.
Yeah.
Shane, are the Colts at a real serious risk here of losing out?
Yes, I mean, we just talked about it, how we would love to see 3 AFC South teams, right? Maybe the Colts, Texans, and Jaguars. But it is possible that the Colts could just lose that, because we're seeing it now. And I know you said this before because people were joking, oh, Indiana Jones, let's go, Daniel Jones. Yeah, Danny Dimes and all that. But now he's starting to look like, oh, yeah, the Daniel Jones back in when he was playing for New York Giants. Yeah, this looks like the guy we know back in the day. So if Daniel Jones doesn't start playing like he was at the beginning of the season, when they were it looked like, holy, are they the best team in the league right now? They need that Daniel Jones. If he continues to play like back in the old days, well, it's over, because that is as long as he plays well, I think the team plays well. And so, yes, they are at a serious risk of falling off, especially if Daniel Jones doesn't play well.
The Texans need the game more than the Colts do, because they're playing from so far behind.
Yeah.
But I will say this: while I don't think that the Colts have it in them to completely implode to the point that they miss out on the postseason entirely, I will say this about the Texans: the Texans were 3-0 under Davis Mills. Now, you can argue that was mostly because of their defense, and they do have a fantastic defense.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is they were 3-0 against solid competition with him at quarterback, and they were struggling under C.J. Stroud. Now, am I saying that that's all Stroud's fault and that Davis Mills is the answer? No, that's not what I'm saying.
Oh,
but it is undeniable that there was a spark there. I know speaking to a 49ers fan, there's something to be said for knowing which of the two guys is more talented, but also observing on the field when your team is firing on all cylinders, and it makes for a tough decision. I think that there's going to be some uncomfortable discussion in Houston should they follow that 3-0 stretch with Mills and then, turn around and go 0-3 with CJ Stroud. There's going to be some uncomfortable discussion around that. Moving on to the second game, my league leading LA Rams, who are 9-2, are going on the road to play the 6-6 Panthers. Now, you've already heard me say, I think that the LA Rams might be the best team in the NFL. The 6-6 Panthers need it more, but look, it's not just a matter of needing. Look, if the Panthers win this game, they're in position to win the NFC South. Remember, a month ago, the Bucs were like the number one team in the NFC, and a month later, the Panthers might win the division. And that I can tell you right now is a division that ain't going to be sending more than one team to the playoffs. Do you think the Panthers have a shot?
Yes, I think they do have a shot. I mean, the last time they played was back in 2022. I don't know if you see the picture there, but CMC was the running back there. And so it's been a while. I do think they have a chance, especially if Bryce Young can get into rhythm and play well, because, look, the Panthers played the Niners, and the defense played really well, right? But this isn't Brock Purdy they're facing. They're facing Matthew Stafford, who has a stronger arm. I mean, every single time he throws that ball, it looks like it's a bullet. Like, where'd the ball go? It's in the guy's hands already. Dang, that's quick. So they do have a chance. I think it's a small chance for sure. But you are right. They are going to be playing with just 110% because they need the game. They need to win this game 100%. So they're going to be going on all cylinders. But in terms of, are the Rams the best team in the NFL? Yeah, I think they are.
Yeah, the tough thing for the Panthers is last week's kind of ho-hum loss to the 49ers took a little bit of the air out of the sails, in particular because Rico Dowdle, who had been absolutely tearing it up on the ground for them, he only got 6 carries in that loss, which of course led to some cryptic tweets on X, followed by some mea culpas by head coach Dave Canales. Look, you got to ride the hot hand. I don't know what the deal was there. They definitely don't need to be leaning on Bryce Young to keep up with Matthew Stafford. You're correct. Yeah. It's got to be Rico Dowdle carrying the ball 25, 30 times, and you're trying to keep the Rams offense on the sideline. Leads us to our last game. This might be the game of the week, if for no other reason than that both of these teams desperately, desperately need it. The Buffalo Bills, who are currently 7-4, are going on the road to play the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are 6-5. Both of these teams were in complete control of their fates not that long ago. And now the Bills are heavily trailing the Patriots in the AFC East, but they're still vying for the wild card. Whereas the Steelers are only a half a game up on the Baltimore Ravens after the slow start they had. Neither of these teams can afford to lose another AFC game, and someone's going to lose it. What do you think?
Man, this is like you said, this is going to be the game of the week for sure because there's so much on the line here. If Pittsburgh loses, then that means the Ravens have a chance to go up to be the number one in the AFC North. When before it looked like they were just completely out, like you were saying before, they were completely out of it. Now all of a sudden they're back in it, and man, this for me this is a toss up. I really don't know, looking at it on paper, who would win because it just seems like both teams are so up and down. You don't know what Buffalo Bill team am I going to get this week? What Pittsburgh Steelers team am I going to get this week? Is Aaron Rodgers going to play like Hall of Fame Aaron Rodgers, or is he going to look like the guy in New York where he could barely throw the ball and do anything there? Same with Josh Allen. What are we going to get from Josh Allen? Is he going to be the superstar thrower that we know that he can throw the ball down the field, or is he just going to be he's going to be rolling around and getting hit and banged up, and maybe his head will be flown off or something? I don't know, because he keeps throwing the ball so many times. So yeah, to me it's a toss up.
This is an interesting game. My gut is that the Bills are a much more talented team, and that they certainly have the more talented guy under center, and certainly in his prime at that with Josh Allen. But let me give you this one little factoid. The Bills have scored. This game is on the road. It's in Pittsburgh. The Bills have scored fewer than 20 points in all three of their road losses. And protecting the football has been their biggest issue. They have 3 straight games with 3 turnovers. That's their longest streak since 2006. If they had a fourth game of 3 turnovers, it would be their longest streak since 1986. And they're going into Pittsburgh to play the Steelers, who are currently second in the NFL in takeaways with 20. That could be a disaster. I think it's really as simple as that. The Bills protect the football, they can just grind out a win because they're a better team. They don't protect the football, and the Bills are in full-on yikes mode. Yep. With that said, we're going to end the show the way we always do with our picks. We got 4 picks this week. A few of the games we've already talked about, and then one that we didn't, and that will become clear why momentarily. We're going to start off with Houston Texans at Indianapolis Colts. The Colts are 3-point favorites. Who do you got?
Man, I'm just going to go with, because I want the chaos, I want the Houston Texans to win the game. I want 3 AFC teams. Come on, AFC South teams. Let's go. Come on.
I'm going – see, this is so tough because I actually do think – I like C.J. Stroud. I think C.J. Stroud can be a really good quarterback. I don't know why he's regressed the way he has. Their offensive line issues certainly haven't helped. But Davis Mills was playing behind the same offensive line, and they won 3 games. So I don't know what's going on there. I'm with you. I want them to win, and I see the Colts sputtering.
Yes.
And at the same time, I'm thinking the Colts are the favorites for a reason. Their record is what it is for a reason. It's because they've won a heck of a lot more games than the Texans. However, Daniel Jones is struggling. In particular, he's struggling against defenses that can give him trouble. And the Texans are a top 3 defense. So I for me, the writing is on the wall that a CJ Stroud that struggles can still put up some numbers against the Colts, whereas Danny Dimes doesn't want to see the Houston Texans defense. So I'm actually going to say Houston Texans.
Real quick, give the ball to Jonathan Taylor. That guy seems pretty good.
Dude, for people that don't know this, we love to host some watch parties on our community Discord every single weekend. We watch all the primetime games and we watch NFL Red Zone all together. just so that we can comment on what we're seeing. And the thing that you hear us screaming at the top of our lungs, it seems like every week, is just run the ball. It's like 3rd and 3 inches. You've got Jonathan Taylor. So what is it? It's 20-yard out route. What do you do? Just run the ball. Just run the ball. All right. We're moving on to the true game of the week for our friends Jay Forte and Lyle in chat. It's, of course, the New Orleans Saints.
Hell yeah.
Going on the road to play the Miami Dolphins. This isn't this. This is just you. This is a potential Super Bowl matchup? Question mark.
Okay. I don't even know what to say to that. What are you talking about? No, look.
Maybe not this year. Some year, I don't know. The Dolphins are 5.5-point favorites with their recent late season surge.
Damn.
What do you think?
Man, the Saints they must feel disrespected knowing that the Dolphins are getting some of that love. No, I think the Saints are going to come in there and they're going to destroy the Dolphins. And then next week when I make clips of this, I'm going to put a big old X on me when I'm wrong.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Well, I got excited there for a second.
Yeah.
Saints bad. Saints real bad.
Keep that paper bag over your head. Remember that?
Yeah. If this were an earlier season Saints before they totally sold out, traded anybody away that had any worth and went to Tyler Shuck, then I might have picked the Saints in this game. But with the way the Dolphins have played in recent weeks, I think the Dolphins take care of business. The Dolphins are going to give our friend Jay just a teensy bit more hope before they crush it down here in another week or two. So I'm going Dolphins. Finally, we have the Los Angeles Rams going on the road to play the Carolina Panthers. Now, we pick our picks against the spread. The Panthers are 10-point underdogs. Are you willing to pick the Rams minus 10?
Man, okay, let's see. Panthers get 10 points, and then the Rams have to. I think the Rams will probably score like 65 points, maybe. So yeah, I think this is fine. This is a pretty good bet.
Okay,
yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You know what? I think that the Panthers have at least a reasonably decent chance to rack up some yards on the ground. The problem is they're going to wind up in one of these situations where once you're behind 2 or 3 scores, you have no choice but to push the ball down the field.
Yeah.
And we know that Bryce Young cannot compete with Matthew Stafford. If the game were close, the Panthers could commit to the run in the second half, and this could be a surprising game. The problem is I'm not sure the game will be close at halftime. I'll take the Rams. And finally, our game of the week, Buffalo Bills, Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers are 3-point underdogs for their playoff futures. Who do you have?
Like I said before, when we were talking about before, it's a toss-up. This game really could go either way. Like I said, I don't know what team you're going to get this week. Is Josh Allen going to be the all-star Josh Allen, or are they going to kill him? That's my answer. I don't know. Toss-up. That's literally my answer. Toss-up.
I went a number of weeks thinking that the Bills would finally be able to put it back together, that Josh Allen could go Superman, that they would finally figure out a way to protect the football. They would finally limit big plays on defense. And you know what? I'm done. I'm done, Dave, Mary, whoever else is listening. I'm done defending the Buffalo Bills. I think the turnovers continue. I think the Steelers get that streak up to 4+ weeks. I think the Steelers take care of business at home that keeps them 1 game up on the Ravens and puts the Bills in full-on desperation mode.
Man, just when they thought they had the division in their hands, the Patriots come right back and get it anyway. As of right now, at least.
Shane, do you have a final thought?
My final thought is, please, for the love of God, Brock Purdy, do not let the ball slip out of her hand. It's going to snow in Cleveland. Come on. It's the football. Wear a glove. He was asked, hey, you going to wear a glove? He's like, nah, I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
Please do not let it slip out of her hand. That's all I'm going to say. Please do not let Shedeur Sanders run around and do because they're not good against mobile QBs. Oh, my God. I swear. If they lose, oh, it's going to be not fun. This and the Titans game. Oh, please don't lose those 2 games. Jesus. All right. I'm done.
All right. My final thought. Fuck the Chiefs. Fuck the Chiefs. I'm so happy that the Chiefs are out of it. It's a great day for America, everybody, with the Chiefs not in the running. And once again, final note, I'm here for the chaos. I can't wait for end of season / postseason football. If there is no Chiefs and 3 AFC South teams, then you'll know the system works. It's working as intended. That's exactly what we all expected. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I did have a meltdown there. I'm sorry, but it's from passion. I have a real passion for the 49ers. So, all right,
they're gonna beat the Browns. Don't worry, buddy. You heard it here first.
If they lose, big ol' X on your face.
Yeah.